Welcome to Radio Free USA, unofficially official voice of the resistance, as always sponsored by Democratic Memes. I am Rahul. You might remember me from 2 weeks ago, our first inaugural podcast, but you might have noticed I was MIA last week, and that was because a little earlier that day, I was being forcibly dragged off a United flight. However, everything turned out okay. I got a lawsuit pending. That's great. And it's good to be back. And as usual, I'm joined with my co-host, Tim, our technology expert.
Hey, Rahul. Great to be here. And I'm looking forward to another awesome week of dishing on politics.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to talk about. And as always, we have our resident foreigner/deportee, Tarek.
Thanks for having me back, Rahul. I'm glad that you finally got out of that TSA bunker there. I don't believe you were dragged off a United flight for 1 second there. So nice try getting it back there. But we're in the no spin zone here on Radio Free USA.
Yeah, absolutely. You caught me. So we're recording this on a Monday. And actually, as we speak, the White House has been doing their annual Easter egg roll, I think they call it. And that's provided a lot of funny imagery. I don't know if you guys were seeing tweets and stuff about it, but there's some funny imagery like Sean Spicer reading to some kids. There was, Donald Trump, he forgot to put his hand over his heart for the national anthem. And my favorite image that I saw was a picture of Trump with a big an Easter bunny, like a guy in an Easter bunny costume, and he's like giving a speech on a balcony, and the CNN subtitle says, "Bannon accepts diminished White House role." So he'd been reduced to dressing up as the Easter bunny, which was pretty great. And I mean, and speaking of our buddy, our cuddly racist Easter bunny, Steve Bannon, he's been having quite a few weeks, hasn't he? As the White House reality show has been continuing, it seems like the new battle that's going on is Bannon versus Kushner. It's the nationalists versus the globalist Cucks.
Yeah, I will say this. I mean, the unelected leader of the free world, Jared Kushner, here yet again has proved his dominance, and just another example of when you're born rich, you can really just do whatever you want here. He's apparently elbowing out the alt-right nationalist-in-chief, Steve Bannon, who for months now has been traditionally considered the real president, the puppet master above Trump. But I'm not sure, how do you guys feel about this latest turn in the game of Cucks?
Game of Cucks. I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think I mean, Trump in his actions has moved away from Steve Bannon and his isolationist policies, by bombing Syria and now by dropping the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan. This is not the type of policy that Steve Bannon wants to be seeing from Trump. I don't think, because the nationalist viewpoint is America first, and let's stay isolated and not get involved in everyone else's business, as I understand.
Yeah, and part of that, I think, also, some of that shift in policy or the strategic thinking a little bit. I think part of it seems to be tied to the fact that Bannon and his weasel lackey Stephen Miller seem to have fucked up their responsibilities too. They were in charge of the Muslim ban and both of them that have both been struck down or suspended in court. So there might be some element of, if you're thinking this is an apprentice reality show type competition that, Trump wants all of his subordinates to fight each other for his affection. There might be some element of like Bannon just isn't as like much of a genius perhaps as people thought. And then, people like Kushner, and they say Gary Cohn and Dina Powell, these are the people that Bannon called like the globalist cucks that are like a little more centrist. They're like New York types. That might be an element too. Bannon sort of was given a chance, messed up, and then now they're kind of pivoting in this other direction.
For me, this is really a continuation of the massive flip flop that Trump has, the recurring flip flop that has become Trump's modus operandi since becoming president. I mean, Trump is a Democrat. Let's face it, guys. Trump has been a Democrat his entire life. He became a Republican because he thought that that was the way that he could get a path to the White House. Kushner also has been a lifelong Democrat, big notorious donor to New York politicians who run for a whole host of offices up and down the ballot as Democrats. And Steve Bannon really is the antithesis of that. So, I mean, I'm going to say something controversial here, though, guys. Can I say something controversial? Do I have a moment to say something controversial here?
I don't know about that.
Of course,
You know about
of
that?
course. You can always say controversial things on this pod.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Like that's what I needed. Okay, I needed a hall pass here. So basically, I have an alternative theory here as to why Trump has given so much power to Jared Kushner, and why I think ultimately Jared Kushner is going to prevail in the game of Cucks against Steve Bannon. Basically, it has been well documented that Trump has some creepy thing going on with Ivanka. Okay, Trump, I think, sees Kushner. Lives vicariously through Kushner, let's say, for lack of a better term. And really, I think he respects Jared Kushner because he is dating his daughter, Ivanka, who Trump would date if he wasn't her father, as he's said on The View there. And actually, he said something else.
Yeah, he's like been giving props to Kushner. It's like, yo, you hit that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Trump said, if I wasn't her father, I'd be dating her. Right. And so I think he has utmost respect for Kushner because he is dating his daughter, who is a part of Trump. And as a blatant narcissist, he sees himself as someone who is, very grand. And then his daughter has his DNA. Right. And also he wants her. I think Jared Kushner is married to her. So I think that ultimately Kushner is definitely going to prevail in the game of Cucks. And we're already starting to see that play out here.
Yeah, and as we know, Trump watches a lot of Saturday Night Live, and actually this week they had Jimmy Fallon hosting, and he played Jared Kushner, and they had like a skit where Alec Baldwin, in a reality show style, he needs to eliminate either Bannon or Kushner, and he eliminates Bannon. So Trump might see that and be like, you know what, maybe they're right.
That's exactly it. I mean, the second that they replay that on Morning Joe, that's going to solidify the decision in Trump's head.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like so when Trump was first elected, we kind of were looking for the silver lining in his presidency. And one of the dreams we talked about is that like some of Obama's ideas would rub off on him, but I never really thought about the possibility that his children, Ivanka and Kushner, or his son-in-law in Kushner's case, would be that the source of that Democratic influence. Like it's seeming like they're really, their role is becoming so much stronger in the administration that there could some Democratic policies could end up taking hold. I mean, we're seeing that with foreign policy already, I think.
Yeah, and well, I would just want to caution us to not go overboard with the idea that they're like Democratic influences, or even like it will remain to be seen how effective they'll be in pivoting kind of anything. Because, obviously, even this quote unquote pivot away from like batshit crazy nationalism and straight up racism and protectionism, the pivot has been into like George Bush style republicanism, right? It's like a, hawkish foreign policy and stuff. They're still like gutting regulations, and they still want to cut, taxes and stuff. Trump still believes that climate change is a Chinese hoax. So, Ivanka had claimed at some point like, the media had been reporting that, Ivanka's going to go and make climate change a big issue, and she's going to advocate to her dad to do something about it. But they haven't done shit. So I wouldn't. So the combination of this still being Republicans and also whether or not, Ivanka and Jared Kushner really are moderating forces, or if they're just, what we all assume also, which is they're just riding the coattails of her dad being president so that they can enrich themselves, have more power for themselves, even though they, were not elected or qualified in any way. So I wouldn't be as enthusiastic about this Jared Kushner on his own, but since it's a zero-sum game in the game of Cucks, having Bannon go down is probably one of the best outcomes we could have in favor of just straight up nepotism and more corruption. That seems a little more benign.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Well, guys.
Yeah,
what were you gonna say? What were you gonna say, Tim? Didn't mean to cut you off.
I was gonna say maybe we should move on to some of the foreign policy news.
That's exactly what I was gonna do. We're on the same page. So, guys, over the course of this week, pretty much every day here, I had the most incredible, delicious chocolate cake. Pretty much every day now. It was a pretty big piece of chocolate cake, actually. And then I turned on the news and I saw that Trump had bombed Syria. He had blown his load with something like 52 Tomahawk missiles, each of which